The pyramids we see today were not simply tombs for kings, but symbols of eternity, physical expressions of the Pharaoh's journey after death to the heavens to join Ra, the sun god. The most famous example is the Great Pyramid of Khufu at Giza, which remained the tallest building in the world for thousands of years. It was built with millions of massive stones, each weighing several tons, and the precision of its construction still puzzles scholars today. These pyramids were not the personal project of a single pharaoh alone, but collective efforts involving tens of thousands of workers, craftsmen, and engineers. Thousands of years ago, on the banks of the Nile River, a civilization was born that is considered one of the greatest the world has ever known. A civilization that was far more than just kings and pyramids, as many people might think. It was a complete world of religion, politics, science, arts, and daily life. The ancient Egyptians lived in harmony with the Nile, for it was the secret of their existence, the divine gift that gave them fertile soil after every flood. They cultivated wheat, barley, and flax, and thanks to this agricultural stability, villages appeared, then towns, then small kingdoms, until King Menes, also known as Narmer, around 3100 BC, united Upper and Lower Egypt. From that moment, the first pharaonic state was born, and the pharaoh became not only a ruler, but also a living god in the eyes of his people, a symbol of order and balance, which the Egyptian religion in ancient Egypt was not just ritual, but a complete system that governed life. Egyptians worshipped down scenes of gods, each with a specific role. Ra, the god of the sun and the ruler of the universe; Osiris, god of the afterlife; Isis, goddess of magic and motherhood; Horus, god of the sky; and Anubis, god of mummification. These gods were not mere images. They embodied the forces of nature and the cosmos. The pharaoh himself was seen as the son of Ra, the protector of the land, the guarantor of universal balance. The Egyptian lived his entire life with the afterlife in mind, and so funerary rituals became elaborate, and mummification developed into a sophisticated art aimed at preserving the body for the eternal journey. One of the greatest achievements of the Egyptians was their writing system, hieroglyphs, a complex language of symbols used to record events, rituals, and sacred texts. Writing was not for everyone, but reserved for priests and scribes, who formed an educated class that preserved knowledge, but their genius extended far beyond writing. Mathematics was essential for measuring land after the Nile's flood, geometry for building temples and pyramids, and medicine was astonishingly advanced, with papyri describing surgical operations and remedies. Astronomy too was highly developed. The Egyptian calendar of 365 days is remarkably close to the one we use today. Yet life was not only about priests and kings. Farmers were the backbone of society, working the fields and providing food for the land, while artisans produced pottery, jewelry, and textiles. Egyptian women held a unique position compared to many other ancient civilizations, as they could own land, manage businesses, and even divorce. Music, dancing, and festivals were part of daily life, and games such as Senet were popular among both the rich and poor. As the state expanded, the army became an instrument of power and defense. Soldiers not only protected the borders, but also carried out campaigns into Nubia and ancient Syria. Chariots and horsemen became symbols of military strength, and among the greatest commanders was Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of the East, as well as Ramses II, who immortalized his battles on temple walls, especially the famous Battle of Kadesh. Egyptian art had a unique style, symbolic rather than realistic. Its purpose was not to portray people as they appeared, but to show their status and divine role. The The pharaoh always appeared larger than others in reliefs and paintings. Architecture too was more than construction. It was a declaration of power and belief. Temples such as Karnak and Abu Simbel were not only houses of worship, but also monumental stages for grand ceremonies and symbols of state might. The civilization of Egypt did not exist in isolation. It interacted with other peoples through trade, exchanging gold and linen for cedar wood from Lebanon, incense from Punt, and horses from Asia. This network of exchange turned Egypt into a crossroads of culture and commerce. Over the centuries, Egyptian history witnessed cycles of strength and decline. The Old Kingdom was the age of the pyramids, the Middle Kingdom saw cultural and artistic flourishing, and the New Kingdom represented the height of military power and wealth, with rulers such as Hatshepsut, one of the first great female monarchs in history, Akhenaten, who attempted to introduce the worship of a single god, Aten, to Tutankhamun, whose tomb became far more famous than his reign, and Ramses II, often considered the greatest of all pharaohs. Yet every glory has an end. Internal weakness, political divisions, and foreign invasions gradually led to the fall of pharaonic Egypt until it was conquered by the Persians, then by the Greeks with Alexander the Great, and later by the Romans. But despite losing its political independence, Egypt's legacy never disappeared. Its language remained engraved in stone until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which allowed scholars such as Champollion to unlock the mysteries of hieroglyphs and revive the voice of ancient. The civilization of the pharaohs left more than stone monuments. It left an intellectual and spiritual heritage that influenced the entire world. Many of their ideas about immortality, divine judgment, and the afterlife traveled across cultures and shaped human thought. Even today, the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the temples of Luxor continue to attract millions, standing as eternal witnesses to a civilization that refused to die. The ancient Egyptians were not just builders of stone, but builders of a complete worldview, a civilization that managed to leave its mark on the human story, inspiring scholars, artists, and dreamers across generations. Every stone in the pyramids of Giza, every inscription on the walls of Karnak, every statue in the Valley of the Kings tells the story of a people who believed in eternity and who left behind one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world.